behind me, it's been flipped around, but it says Gambare, which is Japanese. Gambare means like go for it, just do it. Gambare, shout it, everything. Which leads me into my little thing here about Kimura, the legendary Japanese judoka who just swore by push-ups. He's a legend of having done 1,000 a day. He used to train 9 hours a day. It was Oyama, the legendary karateka, the one who used to chop horns off bulls. Well, there's chat about that being a bit staged and stuff, but that's a whole different conversation. But he was definitely the business. There's no one's going to be doubting that. It would be very silly to. But even I think as Oyama said, there's only one person trains more than I do, and that's Kimura. Yes, and part of that training was 1,000 push-ups a day, and there's a documentary on YouTube about Doug Rogers, who's Canadian. One of those guys, Western guys who got into Japan and the Far East in general after the war. Don Draeger, and again John Blooming, the Dutch animal as the Japanese called him. But yeah, and anyway, there's this documentary, black and white documentary on YouTube. It's great, and it shows him Kimura training these guys. He's the only Western guy. And he said a big part of that training during the session, whatever long it was like hundreds of push-ups. I think he says 600 push-ups. He said, this is unreasonable, but he says himself, Doug Rogers says, when I first got to the Far East, I thought there was some secret magic I could learn or something. And then he said, there's nothing. It's just hard work. It's just repetition. It's just training hard. I mean, Oyama said the only secret is sweat. And push-ups, I think are just fantastic. You can arguably do them almost anywhere. You can squeeze them in. I've done them in public bathrooms. So I used to teach you in Japan, in Mitsubishi Business English. And they'd like just disabled access bathrooms. So when the class just do my head in, I'd say, I've just got to go and use, just toilet time, as they call it. And we'll let the guys go and have a fag or a coffee or whatever, and I go in and just lock myself in. I do 2 sets of 50, and that made me feel like I'd done something. So what I'm saying is you can squeeze it in throughout the day. Now I'm working on my own a lot, so I'm always doing amongst the tombs and stuff. Been asked how many I do and blah blah. You just do them till you can't do them anymore. I do a good few hundred a day, 600 to 800. I think used to do 1,000, and then I slowed them down. I find that's harder. But I find that they also have like a psychological effect. Like I used to have bad problems with insomnia and stuff, and I can get a bit tense at times, shall we say. I find that if I'm locked in, like how many, I keep a tab in my head. How many have I done? How many should I do? When can I do the next lot? And it kind of keeps you on track. It sounds really odd, but I read this somewhere psychologically. It's great to have something you can just keep a meter going in your head. I'll do that then, the next ones I'll do on my fingers, or I'll invert my hands, or I should do my front 2 knuckles. So when I get questions, and always I preface this with I'm really no expert, but I, if I can help, it's just we're all here to help each other, hopefully. So if I can help, but people say how many press-ups should I be doing and stuff, it's such a wide question without knowing anyone. Like I say, I'm not like I'm an expert myself, so I don't know. I would just go for it, till you can't do them. You don't want to be pulling, like, don't be hurting yourself, I pulled I really badly pulled a muscle in my arm, and I went to the hospital because I thought I'd torn a bicep. It was that bad. My arm was like next to useless, but it got better, luckily, very quick. In the end, I just left the hospital because I was waiting too long. I was at work, and it was starting to feel better, so by then I realised I hadn't torn a bicep, but it did hurt, and my arm was like just really hard to move and stuff. That's the worst thing I've had. At the moment I've got backache and a small on my back, which I think is from, I've got this bad habit of dipping my middle body, my waist, sometimes a bit like that. Once I get to the past 500 push-ups in a day or so, my form probably gets a bit crap, and I'm 45, so the body's not so forgiving as it once was, or so quick to recover. But anyway, this is a kind of scattergun video about just generally push-ups physically, and like I say, mentally, just to keep you on track. And if you're prone to feeling a bit anxious or whatever, you got insomnia, you got worries going on, you're locked into something. I guess any exercise, releases the whatever it is, the feel good things the same. But it's not like I get mad rush out of it. Like the runner's high, as they call it, or something. But I find it just keeps me on an even keel. Touch wood. So that was it, yeah. So just the power of push-ups, I suppose this is, and so went a bit around the houses on this video, but I thought I should make it because I've had a few questions about push-ups and that. So just go for it, but don't overdo it. You know your own limits.